Mike Tomlin, 19 years, and he stepped away.
Some people celebrate, at funerals. Some people get sad at funerals. I mean, that's how you handle it. That's all.
Can I ask this? Are you guys surprised by the way it happened?
No.
That he stepped down. I am.
Yeah, that he stepped down versus, them having a conversation, either saying, hey, they mutually agreed to part ways, or he's going to be the coach for 2026.
Yeah, I thought that was a little strange.
No,
what goes behind that?
I think he saved them the trouble of having to be the bad guy, and I think the writing was probably on the wall. And if you looked at the way they approached this season, they kind of went out. They got Aaron Rodgers. They got Jalen Ramsey. They went and spent on DK Metcalf, which didn't feel like a normal Steelers thing they would do. And it felt like this was kind of the last-ditch effort of, all right, let's try something, and it didn't work. And the fact that he was ready to walk and he made his decision that quick afterwards, like the next day or 2 days later, I looked at it and I said, yeah, he was ready to go. And he saved them the trouble.
I know we're going to talk about Steve Bisciotti and some of the comments that he's made, at least yesterday. But I also wonder if, Luke makes the kick if Tomlin's stepping down immediately after. Like both things between Harbaugh and Tomlin and the timing of all of it, basically came down to the outcome of that game, and they just delayed it a week. I mean, that's how it felt, at least.
It just leaves me with a lot of questions. I mean, obviously, if he doesn't give any real clarity to, after the fact as to why he stepped down the way that he did, I guess we will always speculate as to why he did it. But I just came away with more questions, than not. Yes, the conversations have ensued. They have taken place about, what happens if the Steelers continue to underperform. I don't think that was any surprise that the pressure was on. But was it solely him personally? Was it connected to, the idea of, I don't want to give him a hard time and it's just time to move on? I just wonder what factors went into play. Does Aaron Rodgers and his future, or just the quarterback's position in general, come into play? It's an aging roster. How much does that come into play? Did he feel as though he didn't have enough time to do a rebuild as a coach? I just had questions. That's all. I do. And as great as fine organization as the Pittsburgh Steelers has held as a standard for as long as it has, I don't feel like there's any shadiness involved in it. I just feel like it's pretty cut and dry. You didn't get the results that were being sought. You're aware of it. Everybody's aware of it, and a decision was made. But I just feel like stepping away seemed a little, I don't know. That made it I think that stimulated or triggered. Okay, I have questions. Why'd you step away? Is it the media? Is it all of it? What was it? What was the real catalyst of it all, outside of obviously just not getting it done?
I mean, they seem like, and I know they made the playoffs, and I get it that they've done this before. I don't know how great of how good of a roster is that? You know what I mean? How good of a situation is that? It feels like it just ran its course, and he probably maybe felt the same. He's heard all the conversation, he's heard all the discussion, and all the the voices out there. He's heard the fans get more disgruntled with what's gone on. I think it was Josina Anderson who reported that there was a coach who could be stepping away, a longtime coach, and then went in, and refound her tweet and said that coach was Mike Tomlin. She said this a couple of months ago. And her point on that was he felt like the job that he had done there no longer maybe got the same respect that it had in previous years, to basically sum it up. And I think Mike Tomlin just looked around and said, all right, man, it's just time. It's run its course. Little different than Baltimore because they made the decision, but I think My big question would be, would Pittsburgh have made the decision? And if he got
I think they had to, right?
I mean, I don't know.
I think they had to. I think they had to make the decision, and as complicated as it may have seemed, I think it wasn't complicated. I think that it was, and we had the conversation, and I think a lot of people had the conversation, right? Like, if you don't make it into the playoffs, it's probably a wrap. Then when they won the division and went into the playoffs, what was the conversation? We said, hey, it could have been, what'd you say, Jonas, rip the scab off, rip the Band-Aid off by just not making it to the playoffs. You make it into the playoffs. If you don't make it out of the first round, it's no different than you not making it to the playoffs, right? I think that was very clear. So having such an early departure, the way that it took place, I don't think that it came as any surprise. Again, I think the biggest surprise was how, not that it did happen. I think this was inevitable if this team did not perform well in the first round, if they didn't make it out of the first round of the playoffs. Second round, I don't know. No, I feel like that's up for debate. But first round, you lose at home, and you lose by a very large margin, even though it was a more competitive game most likely than what the score indicated.
A couple of things. I think for some reason we've become almost like accustomed to the Steelers' track record and what Mike Tomlin's done. And I understand he's got a Super Bowl. People are going to make a lot of cases like, hey, he won with Cowers guys, whatever. Okay. He's been the model of consistency. Never had a losing season. And there's something to be said for that. And I think, to what you guys just said about, they kind of got tired or accustomed to just what he was doing. Well, you're about ready to find out. Because this is like the roster's going to be in a rebuild. The Steelers probably need to reset. And whoever comes in as their next head coach, I just have a hard time believing they're going to be able to flip that switch consistently and do what he's done. Like, the Steelers are going to have to deal with some bad seasons. They are. Like, they're a great organization, one of the most well-respected. They will get a good head coach. That is an organization that makes everyone kind of second guess. Maybe I should take that interview. Maybe that's a better job than what I'm in. I mean, they've had as less head coaches as there's been popes since like the 1960s. So this job doesn't come open very often. And when it does, typically it ends up being a guy who's going to be there for a while, and they give him the patience to build this. But I don't know. I think in this day and age of the NFL, it's really, really hard to, showcase the model of consistency that he has, demonstrated. And I realize it hasn't come with championships, but apparently that's all it's about anymore. Is if you're not winning a Super Bowl, you stink. And it feels like it's like that with young people. When you read through some of the stuff on social media, listen to some of the comments made, it's like a lot of young people kind of, chiming in. And it's like, dude, I don't think you realize like how hard it is to do even what they're doing now. But they're about ready to find out. Because and the tough thing too is like with the whole reset, this decision ultimately impacts Aaron Rodgers. Because Aaron Rodgers probably is coming back, or at least contemplating it, if Mike Tomlin's back for another year.
Yeah.
All I know is I think there's a validity to the idea of having the type of success that he's had, because he has had success. He wins. He hasn't had a losing season. But I think there's also something to be said that if you have a system that is leading to winning seasons, but it's not leading to championships, that's a very difficult proposition to put in front of a coach to say, you got to change. How do you change from success? You're already successful. And I think that was most likely one of the most complicated, things that, Mike Tomlin and his coaching staff and even the Pittsburgh Steelers needed to find a solution to. How do you do a reset when you're already successful? and then the idea of being able to survive a reset. If you do a reset and you go outside of what you're already successful doing, and that reset doesn't yield you even the return that you were getting prior to the reset, then you're ultimately gone anyway. So you're almost in, what would be considered to be a very, very difficult situation, maybe even considered a no-win situation. And I think that's, to me, that's the biggest conundrum of it all, is that you're a successful franchise, you're a successful team, as you guys just mentioned. You're just not winning Super Bowls. You're not having as much success in the playoffs as you would like to have. So it'll be interesting to see. You get a new guy in there, what do they do? Because one of the biggest things that we heard when it was mentioned, Tomlin won a Super Bowl, but you could possibly say he won it with Bill Cowher guys. One thing that Bill Cowher did throughout the entirety of his tenure as the coach was maintain the Steeler way. And that was created by Chuck Noll and those players from that era. It carried over into Bill Cowher's era of time. And some people, and I've heard this from conversations from Ben Roethlisberger on his podcast. It's been from players who have been in the locker room that have experienced it themselves. Some would say that what was considered to be the traditional Steeler way had faded away. And listen, it's 2026. Evolution happens. The only thing that's inevitable is change, and you got to be ready for it. So did the Steelers change as time changed based upon where culture is, where society is? Maybe. But I do know that a lot of the people, even like old heads that talked about it, from like Mel Blount to Terry Bradshaw, they were very critical of the idea that the things that made the Pittsburgh Steelers in the past had no longer existed. And so I wonder, how much does that play into where the Pittsburgh Steelers currently are? And it does raise the question, the next guy that comes in, does he do it his way or does he try to do it the Steelers way? Because now at this point, you got to believe that that's probably complicated, because what exactly is the Steeler way?
Yeah, that's my question. If the Steeler way is winning, isn't it? Because if it's winning, then Mike Tomlin did it better than anybody outside of Chuck Noll.
I think there's more. Yes, winning obviously, but I think there's more to it in terms of what takes place, like the culture of the building, the culture of the locker room. The how the players handle themselves, what takes place with the players. I think there's a lot more to it that leads up to the winning that would be considered to be the Steeler way. It would be great to hear from a Steeler that played in those eras of time. I work with one guy. I guess I'll ask him at some point, but he was a part of the Bill Cowher era, and he was a part of the Mike Tomlin era, and I know I heard him make mention of things like that, like the people that were in the locker rooms. You think about the Levon Kirklands and the Rod Woodsons and the Greg Lloyds and the Jerome Bettises. There was a hierarchy in that locker room that governed what that Steeler way represented, and I don't know that existed in this latest team.
It's also, I think, kind of branching off of Brady's point. We're never going to see the run that John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin had with the team ever again. Belichick, never again. Those days are over. And it almost makes me kind of respect Iowa and Kirk Ferentz, because it's almost like Iowa's like, yeah, we know who we are. 8-9 wins. We're gonna punt a lot. Maybe we'll score a few points here or there. We'll be in some bowl game in late December, and that's about it. We know who we are. And in the NFL, we're never going to see a coach go 18, 19 years. It's never going to happen. Those days are done. And for however long Andy Reid decides he wants to do it for, he's going to do it. But I think the days of those long tenured coaches who can establish the Steeler way or the Raven way or whatever they want to call it, I think it's just going to become more and more difficult, because I just don't think people are going to stay in one place for as long anymore.
So let me ask you guys this: is that because of society and the pressure out around them? Like I look at Sean McVay and I think he probably has the best chance of being around for any significant portion of time. Right? He's coached for, is it 9 years now in LA?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So if you look at their model of success, everything else goes along with this. But think about it. Weren't we having conversations about him a year or two ago?
Yeah.
About maybe stepping down?
Like he was burnt out.
Yeah. And that's, and so I want to pick up on that point. Like he was burnt out. And it feels like the burnout is more and more. And I don't know if it's the style of coaching, if it's, again, the pressures from the outside, all the stuff they got to deal with, if the job has changed. I mean, I know if you go throughout time, we can look at, being a head coach in the NFL and say, hey, in the offseason, some of these guys were working second jobs if you go way back. But then there became a point in time where there were off seasons, and now there is an off season. But it's not what it used to be. There's more time off if you're not making the playoffs. Now, again, the Rams are a team that, at least under McVay, has traditionally made it or definitely been in the hunt. So you look at it from that standpoint, just go, so his season's going to be a little bit longer, but there's also a period of time where he's got some downtime. He's not even, he's going to be able to take a break too. So I wonder as you move forward and we kind of look at it, like what are those, external pressures? Is it just the pressure to win one and win a Super Bowl, and then everyone on the outside is delusional? Because like I kind of fall in this category when I think about just being a dad now, raising kids who are playing sports. It's like every parent thinks their kid's getting a scholarship, and I always think of the statistics to that, and even at like a youth age, I'm just going, oh, all these parents. I was like, I'm looking on the court. I see two girls who are probably going to get a scholarship right now. Like just watching them, and you go to like other games, you're like, unless they're an outlier, like probably not getting a scholarship. Like they're probably not one of the best. And it's almost like our society, that we walk into this every single season. Oh, my team's got a chance to win a Super Bowl. No, it doesn't. There's like probably 7 teams in the NFL, maybe 8, or 9. And you say there's some surprises that come in there. Like I don't know that people thought that Denver's going to be as good as they were this year, or Jacksonville's going to be as good as they were this year.
Or Seattle.
Seattle, right. Seattle's one of those. But like I was looking back through our preseason prediction. I had 4 of the 7 in each conference that I thought would make it to the playoffs made it. Obviously missed 3 on each side. The difference has been after the wild card round, I only got 1 remaining in each. And that's Buffalo and San Fran. And I didn't think either one of those are going to the Super Bowl. So after Buffalo and San Fran are out, it's done for me. But I go back and I look at, where we're at as a society and our perspective. And it seems like you're running out some really good people, some really good coaches, maybe before their time should be done. Because of what? The external pressure of it? Like, is that what it's become? The expectations are there's never a period where you can just, build and grow. And it's maybe a little slower than everyone else, but you eventually get there and it's a much more successful path.
Society.
It's almost like, no, burn it down, just rebuild it. Like, it's like, no, that's not sustainable. You can't keep doing that.
It's sped up too much. Information is light speed. You have actually more intelligent fans because information, we've gone through this information boom, this technology boom.
Are they more intelligent or just more opinionated because they have that?
I think they can be more opinionated because of the technology and because of the platforms that has given a voice to the fan.
Sure.
And for what it's worth,
sure.
And has extended the media as well.
A lot of dummies out there, though.
There's a lot of irresponsible people with information.
This is why I say this, is just because you have the information, that doesn't mean you know what the hell to do with it. And just because you have an opinion, that doesn't mean your opinion's based on anything. Like, we used to care about experience. I don't know that people feel that way as much anymore. I mean, you look at some of the head coaching interviews. Some of these head coaching interviews, like Grant Udinski. Now, he might be the next great offensive mind. Have you guys heard of him?
Yeah, just
he's 30 years old. He's an offensive mind. He's now like that next great guy that someone might hire.
And
Somebody
how does
give the
that
opportunity
happen,
to.
by the way? How does that even happen? How do you find,
Because-
how does he become he is the hot go-to guy in terms of an offensive mind? Like, there's a lot of great offensive minds out there. There's a lot of great defensive minds out there. Like,
Sure.
how does that
I think
even
what
happen?
happens with a young guys is it's no different than sports. You're around enough coaches, you're around enough people, then you have an outlier come along. And you go, like, kind of similar to Sean McVay. Like, hey, you should interview this guy. Like, he's different. Like, the way he approaches things, the way he handles it, he's going to make some mistakes, but he's an outlier. He's different. He's differentiating himself from everyone else. So I'm not going to say that those guys aren't out there, but if you're an organization and you're going to keep running through coaches every year looking for that guy, I don't know. Maybe in the NFL, because there's really no risk of you ever, going bankrupt and losing your company or losing fan interest. Like, maybe they're insulated from that so they can keep doing that. But I just look at it and say, like, I don't think that's a successful model. Like, there's too many times you see organizations not give guys enough time. And they say, nope, you got a year or two. It's like, all right. It's hard. Like what Liam Cohen did this year, that stuff doesn't happen. It doesn't come along very often. And by the way, like, we'll see what they look like next year and the year after that.
That's
so
true.
I don't know. I think as a society, like, our expectations for how all the stuff is supposed to go has, like, to LeVar's point, turned to light speed. And I'm not sure that's a good thing.
Like, even the Tomlin McVay, those are the exception, not the rule. Those, like, when McVay interviewed with the Rams, nobody out here thought he was going to get the gig. It was like, oh yeah, they'll give him a look, and then all of a sudden he blew him away in an interview, and he was back for a second, and the conversation was, wait, he might actually get this job. And Mike Tomlin, he was like, they interviewed him, and I don't know if it was a Rooney Rule thing, but it was more like yeah, we'll bring him in, but we're looking at another place. And he interviewed so well, but you've seen how long those guys have lasted. More often than not, like, that doesn't happen everywhere. Like, it just doesn't. Like, you can go through Callahan at Tennessee. You can go, like, all these coaches who are just turned and burned so quickly. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals did it. Houston was blowing out, a coach every season before DeMeco Ryans got it. It just, yeah, I just don't see what we've gotten to witness with Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh. I don't see it ever happening again.
It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how it happens, how it plays out in Pittsburgh. That so many years you've had, what, 3 coaches? 3. I think in the history, I think it's 4 coaches
Since
altogether.
The 60s.
Yeah, I think it's 4 all. But it'll be interesting to see. Does Pittsburgh change their ways? Do they go down this new way of doing things and how they handle things, or will they continue to do it, the air quotes, the Steeler way? Will you get a coach and give him a multitude of years to be able to build a winner? Because that is the one organization. If you're going to say, what organization would you use as a barometer to say, okay, is this evolution of the league? Is this how it's going to be done from here on out? It's going to be what the Steelers do. Big Art ain't here anymore. It's not Art Rooney's team. It's the other Art, Arthur. It's the grandkids. It's the sons. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle this next step, next phase of what the Pittsburgh Steelers represent.
Someone had said, like, the NFL is converted now to a league where they want coaches who are able to adapt and change and make those adjustments that are data driven. Not like year to year anymore. Now it's like by game, by half, by quarter, by drive. And I think the scary thing about that is if you've got someone who's that fluid, that flexible to adapt and change everything else, like, what's their identity? What are they willing to hang their hat on? Are they able to get the job done?